I'll ping him.
Yeah, we don't have Balerion yet.
Yeah, it's fine. Well, all right. So, howdy and welcome to Writer Showcase number 164.
Hello, everyone.
Been doing this a while, boys, haven't we?
Nope,
Yeah.
we haven't.
Just a minute.
And
Just a few days.
congratulations, audience. You get two of the special people from the Discord server.
Wow. Wow, way to talk
Special.
about done like that. Bro, way to talk about done like that, bro. Ain't no
What did
way.
you think I was talking about done?
You don't get it? You don't get it?
I know I'm special. I'm weird.
No, not that kind of special. The other kind of special.
Oh.
Well, technically, wouldn't it be three special people at that point? Since I think I fit in with the crowd.
Look, you are our special, done, but you're not that kind of special. You're special in the type that people usually talk about whenever they say that, as in like precious. I'm talking about the kind of special that has to go outside of class and go get educated in another classroom in the middle of the school hours.
Okay. Fair point.
So, I'm assuming that because Axula over here does not have anything to present yet, because he's still in the process of editing.
Yeah,
and
I'm nearly
it's tradition
done.
that done goes last. That would mean that I, by extension, or by default rather, would have to go.
So I guess you could go to the bathroom, I suppose.
Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and find where I left off last time. So I believe that where I last left off with the story was that Valerie and her team were basically just, they're starting a new day. The next day, they're going to be deployed on their first assignment. And Vals wakes up and she finds that Dove is not in uniform and, in fact, seems to be wearing her casual wears and seems rather upset about this. And quickly realizes that it's because she and her team are going to go shopping. Yay. Except it's not actually shopping. They're going to be asking around for hints about
I remember this.
about whatever it is that they're going to go hunting, because it's actually a hunter's market or or trader's market. Same thing, really. But Valerie's upset about this. They meet up with Sheila and the rest of the team. Well, just Sheila and Sunny, really. And they go off on their separate ways, with Valerie going down a certain path, going down a specific alley, and Sunny and Sheila going down the other way. They split up to cover more ground. So, I believe I left off where exactly? I know I left off somewhere in the middle of the chapter. I just forgot where. What was the last event that took place? Because I know.
I'm trying to remember exactly.
Done? Do you happen to remember?
No, I do not. Sorry.
Did you present half a chapter? Or
yes.
I might be mistaking you with Balerion, but I'm pretty sure you did.
I did.
Okay. I mean, do you want to start from the top, or are we limited on time with anyone here? I got all day.
I'm
not going to start from the top. I barely even edited the top. I'm also just wanted to finish. I'm also just wanting to finish the chapter first before editing anything.
Okay, that's fair.
All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and pick up halfway through. So we're going to be jumping from Valerie's perspective over to Sunny and Sheila's. So, yep.
Cool.
All right. Let me just find it. Sunny, however, perused the selection of trophies. Oh no, that's actually a terrible way to start. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and start off from. Yeah, this is a good point to start. The sky was clear, the sun barraging the world beneath a relentless bombardment of heat, light, and radiation. The air was a sauna with a thick fog rolling through the distant forests, the warmth wrapping around Valerie's olive skin like a blanket and leaving her in a constant haze. Despite the custom-tailored garb she wore, a set of red-accented black clothes that left her abdomens, arms, and most of her chest bare, it still had no bearing on the excessive humidity. Sweat streaked down her face, threatening to slip into her eyes, and she could feel parts of her garments sticking to her skin. She felt a bounce with every step, a tapping against the flat of her chest. The necklace Dove had gifted her with the golden sanguithist gem. Yet, despite the discomfort and the irritation, Valerie trudged forward with a fixed determination and a slight growl crawling up her throat. Endure it, she instructed herself. We'll go along with Sheila's worthless plan, and, optimistically, we should still have a few hours in the left of the day to be productive. Valerie gave a sideways glance at her fiancé, and the sharp, harsh glare began to soften. Dove's face had already reddened slightly, her wide-brimmed hat seeming to have done little to keep her cool. Even in her light, thin single layer of clothing, she was already drenched in sweat, the fabric sticking to her ebony skin like a spider web, becoming translucent. Valerie averted her gaze and stuffed her hands in her pockets, realizing then that too much of her fiancé was showing. Her eyes darted around, scanning the expressions of the various people around them as they crossed the courtyard, a shot of concern firing in her brain. Valerie's throat began to clog, her heart wrenching the second she saw some of the soldiers staring at them. She swallowed and whispered, "Love?" The white-haired phoenix perked up, a beaming smile emerging. "Yes, Vals?" Valerie glared at the soldiers as they passed by. "You can go back inside. I will meet up with Sheila and take it from there." Dove raised an eyebrow, her jaw slacking. "What? Why? I know it's hot and all, but we're phoenixes. We're kind of meant to handle this sort of thing." Valerie's cheeks reddened, keeping her tone hushed. "It's not the heat I'm worried about. It's that you're showing through." Doves blinked, her eyes glancing down at herself, and she scoffed. "So what? Let them think what they want. Won't matter once we bring back that monster's head." Valerie's expression sank, peering into Dove's golden yet hopeful eyes. She smirked and nodded along. Then a sudden sound caught her attention, jarring her. "Oi!" A loud and audacious voice rose from the chatter of the crowded courtyard. Slipping between the tide of dull and muted colors were two vibrant and lively figures, Sheila and Sunny. Valerie's eyes widened upon meeting them. Phoenix's... Oh, wait. No, I should just skip over this little bit over here. Let's see. Valerie shook her head, seeing Sheila's hand waving in her face. "Vals, you there?" Valerie scowled at the red-haired phoenix, a smug look plastered over her vanilla face. Dove leaned in to whisper in Sheila's ear, though Valerie could still hear her. "She's a bit moody this morning. Trying not to annoy her too much?" Sheila chuckled. "Right. Forgot I used to get those. Hope the cramps aren't getting you too hard, eh, Vals? Incensed, Valerie snapped with a half growl. I am not experiencing any cramps. Sunny's eyes shot open, her head sinking into her shoulders, while Sheila kept grinning. The red-haired daughter of the dove kept her hands on her hips, and her chest puffed. Ah, so the usual gloominess from our fierce leader. Got it. Valerie's brows pulled together in a pointed glare. The correct word would be annoyance. Annoyance stemming from your lack of maturity in dire matters, such as our mission, and annoyance from your laid-back attitude. Sheila rolled her eyes and muttered, Yeah, 'cause being a stiff about everything's so much better. Dove sighed and grumbled to herself, Not this shit again. Valerie stepped forward, bullishly ignoring Dove's disapproval. At least a stiff would know better than to... Valerie paused, glancing between her teammates and performing a head count in her head. Her glare turned inquisitorial. Wait a second. Where's Miriam? Where'd you think? Sheila snarked. Up in her room, acting like a recluse. Sunny leaned in, her voice chirping just loud enough to be heard over the crowd's murmurs. Do you think she'll be all right? She's been spending a lot of time alone recently. Dove sighed and nodded. She'll be fine, Sunny. She's just more introverted than others. Valerie blinked and sulked. Her gaze started back to Sheila, and the gears in her head turned. Annoyance. Perhaps a pang of shame struck at Valerie's heart, reflecting on the constant altercations between herself and the red-haired phoenix. She straightened out and recomposed herself. In any case, it'll do us no good to dwell on her whereabouts. Sheila and the others turned their attention to her, almost struck by her sudden shift in tone. You said you wanted to explore this trader's bazaar. Is that correct, Sheila? The red-haired phoenix nodded. Yes, ma'am. All right. And where would you have us meet after? Sheila's head sank into her shoulders, her eyes frantically darting around. Well, funny thing you should ask. I was thinking we could discuss it over lunch or maybe dinner? Valerie nodded. Very well. Then that is our plan. Dove and I will go together, and you and Sunny may do as you wish. Good? Sheila blinked, befuddled. Sure. Sounds like a plan. A smile crept across Valerie's face. Good. Dismissed, she instructed, and, on her word, Sheila and Sunny turned and wandered down one of the multiple alleys that the tents formed. Valerie observed them before her gaze wandered to another aisle, lined with the various stands and tents where people were filtering in and out. Most of the natives had a complexion of copper or bronze, standing in contrast to the colonials, undoubtedly Urupani or even Hilali. Some may have even descended from the autonomous territories. Though such nations no longer existed as they did, Valerie could see that in the trinkets and the garbs they wore that they still clung to such archaic identities. Valerie? The scarlet-eyed woman returned her attention to Dove. Is there something wrong? Valerie raised an eyebrow, then shook her head. No, everything's fine. Let's go this way, she instructed, strolling down the aisle with Dove following behind her. Valerie's gaze darted about, scanning the various booths, the chimes and trinkets that hung from the top of canopies in the back of walls. The hunters hung up pelts, skulls, and other trophies. Some even butchered the meat of exotic animals to sell off, the scent of iron polluting the air around them. Then Valerie's ears pricked. She heard a tune playing, a melody. She traced its source to a small street band playing a violin and flute of Han descent. Children seemed to dance around it, some even holding ribbons. The music tried to sound cheerful and joyous and festive even. Yet Valerie couldn't help but hear an undercurrent of misery and tragedy, a melancholic sadness that deepened her own state of being. Val's? That she flinched, feeling a hand wrap around hers. Valerie's pulse spiked, a serenity washing over her as she peered into the golden eyes of Dove. You know, couldn't hurt to smile a bit more, right? Valerie's shoulders slumped, the tense look in her eyes melting away. She felt a tug and followed Dove. Sunny, however, perused the selection of trophies. Her eyes glanced back at Sheila, who was standing with a group of men in khakis, hunters. She could see that Sheila was still deep in conversation with them, undoubtedly discussing their quarry. Sunny smiled, returning to her browsing, when her bright and wide eyes lit up. It was a dagger, a small blade seemingly fashioned from a talon. It featured an engraving in a language alien to her, but beautifully written, such that it was artistic in its own right. Calligraphy. And Sunny's excitement became audible. Whoa! She slipped her fingers beneath the dagger and lifted it, the dagger feeling unusually heavy. Like what you see? A shrewd voice asked. Sunny looked up and found a man around her own height, watching her with keen interest. His smile was uncanny, an almost disturbing grin. It didn't register to Sunny, though, who simply smiled back and explained herself. Oh, yeah, I was looking for a gift. I wanted to get something for my friend. The man rubbed his chin, gleefully grinning. A gift, you say? This friend of yours, she must be really special. Sunny blinked, and she flushed red. Well, you could say that, she giggled. We're kind of a thing? The man chuckled. I see. Well, we keep all our greatest treasures in the back. Perhaps you could. That's fine, Sunny interjected. She really loves this. I just know it. How much for it? The man's face contorted, a devious grin growing wider. So, this thing moves how fast? Sheila asked incredulously. The pale man in khaki shrugged. All we knew is it was in one place, then it was in the next. Sheila's brows pulled together, staring at the man with a skeptical gaze. All right, so this thing cut you guys off, so how'd you escape? Sheila's ear twitched, hearing a high-pitched voice chirp. Sheila! The red-haired phoenix blinked and peeked over her shoulder. It was Sunny, her eyes and chest glowing with uncontrollable joy. Sheila groaned and raised a hand to the hunters. Hold on a sec. Sunny closed the gap, wading through the crowd of people with both of her hands behind her back and brimming with an almost childish excitement. Sheila sighed and placed both of her hands on her hips when, without anticipation, Sunny presented the dagger to her. Check it out! Sunny exclaimed, barely getting the words out through her giggling. Isn't it awesome? Sheila blinked and studied it. She recognized the shape of the ceremonial knife. The text was written in a oh my god, was horribly worded. The text was written in a text derived from various Terran languages that the Old Republic referred to as Artemisian. Sheila's eyes then widened, recognizing the gilded handle and the sheath of the ceremonial huntress dagger. Fuck, she exclaimed. This thing's got to be at least 100 years old. Sheila reached for the dagger. Where'd you get? The smile on her face melted away as she picked it up. She squinted at it, noticing an oddly plastic texture to it, an uncanny sheen. With the dagger feeling oddly weighty. Her brows furrowed as she tried to read the illegible text, the jumbled up letters arranged to look like words, but ultimately had no meaning. Yet Sonny carried on and answered her question. There's this kind merchant over there. He says it's a tooth from the biggest animal he hunted. I thought you'd think it's cool, and Sonny's smile faded away, noticing the stern scowl across Sheila's face. The red-haired phoenix groaned and straightened out. How much did you pay for this? Sonny blushed, her head sinking into her shoulders. Sheila rolled her eyes. Sorry, boys, but big sister Sheila's got to take care of something. The expeditionary shrugged. Sure, we'll be here all day. Great, Sheila remarked, putting on a smile. She strode forward, snatching Sonny's arm and pulling her along. Now, you're gonna show me which of these creeps sold you this. Sonny nodded, then pointed with her free hand. It was him, that guy, in the booth with all the bones. Sheila squinted, looking in the direction Sonny pointed until she spotted a short man with a happy, content look across his face as he chatted away with another customer. She smiled and approached the booth. Butterflies fluttered in Sheila's chest, and electric humming became audible around her. The merchant waved goodbye to the customer, counting the currency in his hands, when Sheila slammed the countertop. Oi! The startled merchant jolted and recoiled at the sight of the light woman leaning over the counter. Then, still wearing her devious smirk, Sheila straightened out and extended her hand. Name's Sheila. What's yours? The merchant tucked away his gains in his pocket and shook Sheila's hand. Abu Aziz. Ah, nice to meet you, she replied, vigorously shaking the Hilali man's hand. My friend over here told me you're a great hunter. Even sold her this fancy dagger of yours. Sonny shied away, backing up from Sheila and blushing when the merchant saw her. Ah, yes, the tool of Kharmak, one of my greatest trophies. You know, those were incredibly dangerous creatures. Only a true hunter of great virtue and courage could hope to best them. Sheila's eyes lit up, and she released his hand, not wanting to accidentally fry or vaporize the man. Really? That's incredible, she exclaimed, pulling out the counterfeit Artemisian dagger and observing his behavior closely. Then you wrote this on the tooth, yeah? The merchant stammered, his motions subtle, and she could feel the air around him shift, growing warmer as his heart rate accelerated and his breath became more rapid. Yes, of course. Sheila nodded along. Then you know what it says, right? The merchant stammered. His mouth was open, but nothing came out. Sheila's smug smirk widened, seeing the sweat to form across his hairline. You ever heard of the Artemis system? There's only one habitable planet over there. Most of the flora is actually pretty toxic to human life. The merchant looked confused, but Sheila leaned in on one side and continued. But the animals there could process it out of their system, so they were good to eat. The people developed a culture around the hunt. It was a really big deal over there. Their whole culture spread pretty far across the autonomous territories even. Virtually everyone knows what they're like. Yes, very interesting, the merchant said, stroking his short black beard. Why are you telling me this? Sheila's grin widened. Because this thing, she said, presenting the dagger, is traditionally made from the antler of their first kill and has a prayer to their goddess inscribed on it. And the antlers of these animals they kill, as a rite of passage, is famously lightweight. The merchant was sweating, and Sonny's eyes widened. But the merchant put a smile on his face and clasped his hands together. Listen, Habibi, you must be mistaken. There is clearly Arabic written on the dagger. It cannot be. Then you can read it, right? Sheila snapped, catching him off guard. Go ahead. Tell me what it says. The merchant's eyes widened. He stood there, jaw agape, as he stared emptily at the Artemisian text. Sheila gave the man a smug look. Here, this is what's going to happen next, she began, and handed the plastic counterfeit to Sonny. You're going to give her back everything she paid for this piece of plastic. The merchant sneered at her. And why should I do that? The Sharmuta got ripped off, so what? She should have been more careful. Sheila's grin only widened. Your reputation's everything around here, ain't it? Be ashamed if some girls went around spreading rumors about your little scam. The merchant's face reddened, eyes almost bulging from their sockets with rage. And why would anyone believe a pair of shameless bitches like you? Sheila chuckled and took her hand off the counter. She let his venomous words get to her head and allowed it to strike at her sense of pride, and it flared up into a red burst of flames in her hand. Because we ain't just any pair of bitches. The man froze in place, staring at the raging inferno in her hands. And if you really and you should really watch your tone, by the way, unless you really do value money more than your life. Sonny's eyes widened with horror. She stepped forward to intervene, but the merchant acquiesced. Fine, he grumbled, reaching for the tablet and tapping away. A buzzing sounded in Sonny's pocket. She pulled out her H-card and saw the funds returned to her. Sheila nudged her head, and Sonny placed a dagger on the countertop. Satisfied, she turned around and waved, with Sonny following behind her. Pleasure doing business with ya. The merchant, still incensed, shouted back at her. May all that you come to love betray you. Like it did for you, Sheila snarked, walking away. What a sorry sore loser, eh, Sonny? Sheila blinked. The grin wiped from her face. Sonny was still sulking. Her head hung, her eyes brimming, and her lower lip curled out. Sheila had just then realized that Sonny's arms were wrapped around hers. Sheila, do you think you might have gone too far? Sheila gawked at her, her jaw slackened. What? No, fuck no. Sonny shuddered, but he seemed really mad at us. I don't know if... Listen, Sonny, the only reason that cunt got mad at us was because we figured him out. He didn't get away with scamming us. You shouldn't feel bad about taking back what's yours, especially if someone ripped you off. Sonny's grip tightened, her expression becoming pouty. Still, it's my fault I got scammed in the first place. I didn't mean to cause any trouble. I just sorta... She paused, her thoughts wandering off. Sheila sighed, focusing ahead and scanning the area when Sonny's voice peeped again. Why is Valerie acting so weird lately? Sheila perked up, her eyebrows jutting up. Sonny had released her arm, but her melancholic expression persisted. Her soft, feminine voice peeped again. She's been so angry and sad. I don't remember when was the last time I ever saw her happy. Sheila's posture began to break, a somber look creeping onto her face. Yeah, our fierce lead has been acting up recently. Hasn't been going along well with my jokes either. Sonny's lower lip quivered. Do you think I know? Sheila answered with a groan. It's her powers. She still hasn't gotten them, and she's probably been all tense about it, given how old she is and that she's the only one on the team without him. The two continued walking. Sheila remaining silent, her lips sealed as she replayed the memories of her banter with Valerie. It was then she noticed that the further she went back, the more Miriam appeared at the forefront. Then, with a deep breath, Sheila spilled out her resolution. I think I'm gonna let up on the boss. She's probably going through a lot. Probably not best to keep picking on her. Ain't exactly healthy for the team and such. Sheila blinked, her eyes wandering for a moment before her brows pulled together. Speaking of which, she pulled out her H card and checked the time. We should probably regroup with Dovey and Vowels. Bet Vowels is getting real hungry around this time. Gonna have to go for our lunch. Sonny concurred and nodded. The two began wandering around, scanning the traders' market for the rest of their team. I think I'm going to leave off over there. That is definitely, yeah. There's still about 5 more pages left. 6 actually. We got through a lot.
We did, yes.
No, we didn't.
Welcome, Valerian.
Thank you. I didn't anyway. You can carry on.
All right.
My lunch
I don't mind if you finish it out. Does anyone else time restrained?
Yeah, everything is delayed for me because I had a hassle with my laundry card. And I thought there was money on it, and then it turned out there wasn't. So and the machine wasn't working, so I had to waltz over several blocks to get the new one. So anyway.
Oh no, been there, done that. I lived in hotels and had to deal with that. No, no.
Yes, it was annoying. Yes, it was quite annoying. But as a result, my lunch is delayed, and my coming here is also delayed, coincidentally.
Don't worry, I'm ready to go next if that helps, Valerian.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if everybody on stream is all right, wants me to continue or at least finish the chapter, I suppose I can go in and do that.
I give a vote yes. Anyone else say no?
Sure, we can. I think 10 more minutes is okay. Since I do want to save time. Yeah, I just want to make sure that everybody gets the amount of time that's since I do need to be finished by 4. That's my
all right. Well,
mine's not long this week.
But Valerie and Dove still searched around the tents. Valerie's heavy eyes darting from one booth to another when Dove's voice chimed in. Hey, Vals, the scarlet-eyed woman sighed. Yes. Earlier today, when we met up with Sheila and Sonny, Valerie's gaze sharpened, her hands tensed until Dove raised her question. How'd you do that? Valerie blinked and glanced at Dove. Do what? Dove shrugged. Well, get everyone to just start listening to you. You sort of switched up on us. It was like you became a completely different person. Valerie paused and came to a stop. She racked her brain, retreating into herself to find an answer. Her gaze softened and her jaw slackened. I have no clue. Dove raised an eyebrow but kept her lips sealed. I just do, I suppose. Dove frowned and slouched, clearly dissatisfied. However, Valerie looked into her eyes. Dove didn't need to voice her disappointment. It was painfully apparent to Valerie. The chatter in the bazaar seemed to quiet down for a brief moment, and a familiar sound reached her ears. Valerie pricked up. It was laughter, coming from a tent beside her. Wait, that voice. She glanced back at Dove, seeing the same stunned expression on her face too. Without a moment's hesitation, Valerie and Dove made their way into the tent beside them, pulling open the thin, translucent veil to find a woman of olive complexion, much like Valerie, with pitch-black hair sitting across from some trackers and enjoying a cup of tea. The woman's smile vanished from her face the second she saw them. Her eyes shot open with shock. The brief silence between Miriam, Valerie, and Dove was only disturbed by the indistinct chatter in the bazaar. Valerie's eyes remained wide open as she finally spoke. Miriam, what are you doing here? Sheila told me you were going to be in your room. The tracker sat across from Miriam, who looked back at her, and his voice voiced his confusion. Miriam, do you know these women? The daughter of the Shadow Phoenix nodded. Ah, I do. The tall one is my team leader, and the one with the white hair is my team's medic. The tracker, a man of copper complexion and dark hair, nodded along. He stood up from his seat and fixed his coat. Greetings. My name is Shaswain Mirio, a tracker native to this world. Valerie, blindsided, introduced herself. Valerie Maria Sanguine Luna, daughter of Maria Luna, the Twilight Phoenix. Shasway's eyes lit up, and he chuckled. A daughter of Twilight? You didn't tell me you had such esteemed friends, Miriam. Valerie looked back at their team's Pathfinder, watching her awkwardly stir the cup of tea while side-eyeing them. Ah, I do. Valerie's heart sank, her lips contorted into a frown. But Dove stepped forward and addressed Shasway directly. Excuse me, sir, but may we speak with our Pathfinder alone? The tracker bowed his head. Well, of course, ma'am. He returned his gaze to Miriam. You wouldn't mind if I gave your team some privacy, yes? Miriam shook her head, and so Shasway took his leave, pulling open the curtain on the other side, presumably to the front stand of this booth. Valerie focused her attention on Miriam, who hung her head with a dejected sigh. Dove glanced at the scarlet-eyed woman with worry, but Valerie raised a hand before walking around and sitting across from Miriam. So, what were you two talking about? Miriam's cheeks reddened, her strained and smoky voice slipping from her dark lips. Shasway's a tracker native to this planet. He's been leading expeditions into the jungles for most of his life. I figured that if I'm going to guide the team through them, I should speak with someone with experience. Valerie nodded, her gaze wandering down to the table. A question ached in her chest, and she knew she had to let it out. Why did you tell everyone you were staying in your room? You could have told us you wanted to be on your own. Miriam kept her lips sealed and hung her head. Valerie's expression dropped. She didn't have to read Miriam's mind to know what she was thinking. But she asked anyway. It's because of Sheila and I, is it not? Miriam pulled the tea closer to herself, a slight shiver coursing through her. She sat there, not lifting the cup to take a sip. Instead, she stared blankly at it. That was until she conjured enough courage to nod. Valerie hung her head, feeling her heart wrench with shame. But finally, with a deep breath, Valerie got up from the table. Carry on, Miriam, she instructed, drawing the Pathfinder's attention. Dove and I will carry on through as though we never saw you. A meek smile emerged on Miriam's face. She nodded back, and Valerie took her leave, beckoning Dove to follow her out of the tent. Valerie glanced back at her white-haired fiancé and saw a proud smile. Then, as she was stepping outside, Valerie felt a buzzing in her pocket. She pulled out her H-card and saw a message from Sheila. Dove peeked over her shoulder. What is it? Valerie groaned. Sheila wants to meet up for lunch. Did she say where? Valerie shook her head. No, she just wants to regroup in the courtyard so we can figure it out. She sent her response and tucked away the card-shaped device in her pocket. But we should hurry regardless, she instructed, making her way through the crowded aisle with Dove behind her. Valerie kept her posture upright, towering over most of the people, even the men. Her heavy eyes tried to remain focused on the courtyard ahead as she sifted through the crowd. The heat had settled onto her head, inducing the drowsiness of a long day's work in mere minutes. Yet she strode onward, her eyes wandering between the exhibits and booth, when a shimmer caught her eye. Sitting there beneath the sunlight was a copper metallic set of rings set around a metallic orb. It resided on the countertop of an archaeologist's exhibit, right in her way. Valerie's eyes widened, her heart skipping a beat as the gears in her head turned and quickly figured out what it was. She rushed to it, drawn to the strange device of orbs rotating around the central sphere along their axis. Valerie froze, staring at it in awe. The precision, the accuracy, the clock-like movements of the machine. Its motion was smooth and steady. Dove managed to shove her way through the crowd, her voice chirping with a hint of concern. "Vals, what are you doing?" Valerie blinked, seeming to break free of her trance long enough to hear Dove. "It's an orrery." Dove shook her head. "A what?" "A small, scaled-down model of a star system, its respective planets and moons," Valerie explained. "A replica of this star system, usually for studying how the planets and moons move in relation to each other, and done with such incredible and impossible precision. You can even tell we're due for a lunar eclipse soon." Dove covered her mouth and giggled. Valerie cocked an eyebrow and lowered her tone. "Apologies. Did I say something wrong?" Dove jolted and shook her head. "What? No, it's just I had no idea you loved astronomy that much." Valerie smirked. "Well, of course. What kind of daughter of twilight would I be if I were ignorant of the movements of the celestial bodies? If anything, I ought to be surprised the daughter of the Sun Phoenix doesn't share in my enthusiasm." Dove rolled her eyes. "Yeah, well, it's not like astronomy is the study of the sun or..." She paused, seeing the smug look on Valerie's face. With a groan, Dove relented. "Okay, yeah, my bad. The sun is a star and all that. Astronomy is the study of stars and yada, yada, yada." Valerie folded her arms across her chest, her smile persisting, but an Anglo voice spoke up. "Pardon me," Amanda asked, drawing Valerie's attention. "Could I interest you in something?" Valerie's eyebrows jutted up as she bowed her head. "I apologize, sir. This orrery caught my eye. I wish to purchase it." "The orrery?" the archaeologist asked, his studious eyes wandering to the copper instrument on the countertop. His face paled, his eyes shot wide open with shock. "Oh, goodness, no!" he exclaimed, reaching for it and hiding it beneath the countertop. "I'm afraid an artifact as magnificent as this cannot be sold to the public. The state of this device was found in, and its continued functionality throughout the centuries, it is far too valuable." Valerie's heart wrenched, and her eyes glistened. "God damn it," she cursed. "Just my luck that when I found something I'm finally interested in, it wasn't for sale." Valerie blinked, finally registering in full what the man had said. "Wait." She perked up, her gaze softened. "Pardon me. You said centuries, yes?" The Urupani archaeologist nodded. "Yes, that would be correct. I'm sure you must already know how incredible such a machine is to survive this long." Valerie's eyes widened, her breath stripped from her. Yet she still had enough energy to ask again. "But what for? What could the ancients here have kept? Why would the ancients here have kept such a detailed account of the celestial?" The old archaeologist smiled. "Ah, to keep track of the blood moon, of course." Dove's expression became frumpy. She stepped up to Valerie's side. Vals, I don't want to lecture you or anything, but do you know why? For what purpose? The old man chuckled. Well, you see, the ancient peoples of this world had an old myth, a story of apotheosis, a maiden whose village was sacked by the savage beasts of the land. She alone was the sole survivor. The dove blinked, her interest suddenly piqued. Sole survivor? Against a bunch of animals? The archaeologist nodded. Ah, yes. A tragic tale indeed. My wife shared with me the details. She descends from one of these peoples, even. But where was I? Valerie, entranced, jogged the man's memory. You're sharing a myth about the blood moon, the one whose village was raided. What does it have to do with the lunar eclipse? The man's bushy eyebrows rose. Ah, yes, you see, she was not alone. Her soon-to-be husband was with her, but he was weak and slowly perishing. So she sought power, the man explained, tightening his gloved hand into a fist. It was under the light of the blood moon that this woman, in turn for the power to never be dominated by beast or man, sacrificed her beloved to the moon goddess, and from her sprung forth the mightiest of empires. Dove glanced at Valerie, a sudden worry in her eyes. Yet the woman with blood-red eyes remained infatuated, engrossed. But this power only remained with the woman herself. So in order for these empires to hold grasp of it, they continued the human sacrifices. The old man pointed and smiled. Precisely. That's a marvelous mind you have there, young lady. I'm impressed you figured it out so quickly. Valerie bowed her head. Thank you, sir. The man glanced at the white-haired woman and smirked. In fact, I couldn't help but notice your companion there has the presence of a phoenix. Dove's golden eyes widened, and she nearly leapt forward. Hold on, did you think I wouldn't notice? The oddly colored hairs, the vibrant eyes, and a presence like a well of youth and life. Your kind are a beautiful and unmistaken lot. The both of you are quite remarkable. I could use such talent in my expeditions. Valerie's cheeks reddened, and she felt a fluttering in her chest. She smiled. I would be honored, sir, but we have an expedition of our own we must complete. We are due to depart tomorrow. The old man waved a hand. Ah, a shame. Well, I suppose there's nothing more that can be done but to wish the two of you the best of luck. Valerie remained beaming as she nodded her head. Thank you. I hope the best for you as well. She turned and walked away from the booth. Dove followed closely behind her. The golden-eyed phoenix glanced back, an unsettling turning in her stomach as she trailed behind her fiancé to regroup with their team. And that is the end of the chapter. And yeah, I know, unmistakable. I have it written as unmistakable done. I just flubbed it. Oh my god, that was a whole lot of voice acting work that had to go into that.
You did a great job.
Yeah,
that was an excellent job with the voice acting.
I like the voice. Yeah, I like the voice. I like the voices. Yeah.
I could. Did you take inspiration from Carl's work, because this had Carl energy with his diverse cast of like uniquely interesting characters.
I am flattered that you made such a comparison, but no. The reason why it has such a diverse cast of characters in here is because it needs to have a diverse cast of characters over here. We have a friggin' trader's market on a planet that's kind of sort of a melting pot right now. So we have the natives, we have the various peoples from the old republic, and then we also have people from the autonomous territories. Because remember, this takes place in a fucking galaxy. A galaxy full of humans. And also
okay. You're misunderstanding. That's not what I'm trying to say. I wasn't talking about the diversity. I'm talking about the creativity in your accents and the different types of character work that you did. That's what I'm talking about.
The delivery. The delivery.
Yeah.
I think it means the delivery.
Of course it's diverse. I know that this takes place in a space universe. Yeah, of course. It's like...
But yeah, no, I needed to basically figure out the reason why these characters all had to sound different is because they all are different people with like very, very different purposes. Like we have Mr. Happy Merchant over there who's selling a counterfeit, so he needs to sound like a pretty boisterous and cocky guy who's trying to play himself up. Then we have an old archaeologist guy who needed to sound like an old man and needed to speak with that sort of cadence. Also, he's British, so there you go. Even more so, really fulfilling that stereotype over there. And then we have a native dude who's I needed to come up with a name on the spot because I realized that, oh shit, fuck, he has to introduce himself. He needs to introduce himself. I need to come up with a name. I don't know any names. Wait, this is a fictional planet. I can come up with whatever name I want. There. Shawsley. There it is. Sounds really cool.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah. Anyway, I know. The prose were completely messy and jumbled up. It's like this is the most roughest of rough drafts I've ever presented so far. Almost okay, not that bad. I mean, it could have been horny bad, but still.
Yeah.
Don't worry, there wasn't anything like that.
I know.
Yeah, don't worry, you're not me.
God, thank a merciful God.
Good timing. Okay. That's funny.
So, question number 1. Jumping between perspectives, was that jarring to anyone?
A little bit.
I kind of couldn't tell. It seemed like it was fairly omniscient. I didn't really see any differences between them.
I will say it felt like 2 different scenes. This would probably be best if it was split between what you previously presented. This was all one chapter. This could be 2 different scenes because it's pretty much 2 different events that take place. So, yeah.
Well, it's multiple different events that took place. I basically just allotted this chapter specifically to be characterization and also to give different angles for each of our characters because so far I realized that I haven't really presented them with all their nuances.
Well, you did a really good job with the character work.
Thanks. Any commentary on it? Anything? Anything do you want to expand on that? What about the character work do you think was good?
The different personalities and portraying them. Got to give props to that. You know, you have everyone with their different. I don't know. I can't think of another word. Personalities, and so you emphasize that. And definitely, the highlight scene was when Sheila came into the shop and called out the shop owner for his faulty product, and that entire sequence was pretty fun.
That was when I came in. So if I come in and I hear this,
that was
good. As you can tell, he's just a little bit. He's just funny.
And for example, the way you wrote the shopkeeper and his reaction was both realistic and it worked. It worked well. And I would say another. Yeah. Oh yeah, that was fun. I could tell what you were going for. Was that based off of? Well, not based off of. Was that inspired by something that actually happened that you witnessed firsthand, or is it just something you came up with in your head?
I mean, it was mostly because I realized that I was depicting Sheila as an unlikable asshole, so I decided that I wanted to give her character nuance because the idea isn't that she is an unlikable asshole. I just needed to make sure that the audience understood that even though she fucks around a bit, like she's not very serious about a lot of things, and she's kind of like. You know, she's just she's that girl. She's that guy in the group. Those traits and characteristics also helps her to discern very quickly who's full of shit and who isn't.
Right.
And also, she also counterbalances Sunny very well because Sunny is incredibly naive, whereas Sheila is cynical and doesn't take anything particularly seriously.
Yeah, there was one part that was quite good. I think it was Sheila who, when asked about what's going on with Valerie, she guessed correctly. Do I have the right character? I was also
Yep, that was correct.
Someone was talking to me while I was listening too, so I was
No, that's spot on. That's spot on.
I was trying to pay attention as much as I could.
Yeah. She knows how to push people's buttons.
Yeah, she was able to deduce exactly what's happening, and that was good.
Basically, she chooses violence. She has the emotional maturity to be the negotiator, but she chooses violence.
She woke up and chose violence. Yeah, good character work. Very long scene though, or series of scenes would probably be better if it was split. Chapter. I know, but there was a lot going on. It was a long chapter, is what I'm saying. It would probably work if it was split.
It wasn't that long. Well, says the guy who came in the middle of it.
No, this was the second half, Valerian.
This wasn't the second half. I started.
This was the latter end.
This is not the latter end. I just didn't read the first 2 or 3 pages. I think it's
okay.
Yeah, I started off basically from the top.
In that case, it works. I didn't realize. I thought there was a lot more before this, so that explains it. Cool. Yeah, it works. I liked it. Be right back.
Okay. Anybody have any commentary about the little short story that Valerie had learned of at the end of the chapter?
The sacrifice, the one with the sacrifices and stuff.
Yeah, the one where anyone picked up on that or?
Sounded vaguely Greek.
Fair enough.
In terms of how it was portrayed, kind of seemed a little bit similar to a lot of Greek myths. So,
all right. Well, I'm just not going to say anything further on that.
It was certainly intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were a few word choice problems, and yeah, you noticed it, but I tried to point out.
I
guess so. What level of formality are you going for exactly? Since it seems like it kind of slaloms a little bit.
In terms of formality, it's going to depend on which character is speaking. In terms of because I decided I wanted to use the different levels of formality in the way that people speak to help characterize the various team members. Sheila slurs her speech quite a bit. Like, she does it. She's all slang. Dove she's somewhere in the middle. She's more casual. And Valerie is just showing off, basically. She's being a little pretentious with her word choice, and everybody knows it. Even she knows it to an extent, but she doesn't care because she likes it, speaking that way.
Good for her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The reason why I ask is because there was a point where I think it was Sheila said, "Is it not?" And "is it not" is usually associated with saying something in court.
I mean, I speak like that. I think that's just a normal thing that people kind of adopt in their vocabulary. Sometimes I'll say, like, "Is it not the case?" It depends on the conversation or whatever it is, but I will speak, proper English grammar out of nowhere and then go right back to, like, I don't know, slang, and it'll just be fluent for me.
It depends on the context. It's fine whether the correct context. It wouldn't be if someone's going, "Hey man, blah, blah, the mother effer blah, 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 blah. Is it not?" That would not be appropriate. But I mean, in the right context, it's fine. I didn't even put it, so I don't.
I was just curious because it was Sheila who said it, and if Sheila's kind of the person who is like primarily a slang person, it just seemed like it was like
it seemed off.
Yeah, it seemed off with it was kind of the one isolated, like the rest of her dialogue was fairly fine. It was just I don't know if she would say that. I don't know if she would say that. That she doesn't seem like the kind of person who would say that.
All right. Well, this chapter is mostly here for character building and more just for fleshing out the team. giving you some ideas on how they were in the past and their current state and their current interactions and all other stuff. So that's I understand full and well that there's a lot that needs to be fixed.
Well, mainly the description.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my god!
Like for example, he put a smile on his face. You could just say he smiled.
Yes.
Also,
it's overly wordy.
Also, not he sprung, but he sprang, or was it she sprung? I don't remember. But anyway, we sprang. Spring, sprang, sprung.
Which one is proper grammar?
Spring, sprang, sprung. Depends. You sprung after have or something like that.
That's past tense, yeah.
It's not past tense, though. Past participle. The past tense is sprang.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sprung can be actively doing it. Okay.
Like sing, sang, song.
I'm going to throw it through Grammarly and see what it says.
It's like sing, sang, sung.
Yeah, I don't know much about those three words.
Sing, sang, sung, spring, sprang, sprung.
Gotcha.
Ring, rang, lung.
Sing, sang, sung is an excellent example, actually. That's useful. To answer your question, Wissia, from earlier, I was listening with headphones, but I was washing dishes. About the story that she heard at the end, I did catch that, and I thought it was intriguing, just like Balerian said. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. We'll see where that goes.
Good. As long as the audience picks up on it, pays attention to it a little bit, that's good. I don't need anything
I thought that
more.
was interesting. It felt deliberate, and I went, oh, interesting. I wonder where this is going.
And also, funny little thing, I hope that was very, very apparent, is Valerie is very into astronomy.
Yeah, I caught that.
I mean, I pretty much said as such in the story.
She's just like me for real.
Yes. I was going to have her explain what a blood moon is, but I just, no. Excessive. She doesn't need to explain it.
Please do. I ate that up. No, I'm kidding. Not for me, my sake.
Maybe she might explain it to Dove later on in a chapter. But yeah.
Yeah, I'd say the only thing that was a bit jarring was the perspective switch. That was it.
Yeah, with that one I was like, I can't really differentiate these two to a significant degree.
So, Dunn was okay with the perspectives? I'm assuming you were okay with the perspective switch?
Well, I just assumed, I didn't see that there was any I assumed that you were going for a more Dune-esque perspective shift. Where it's basically you're kind of in the heads of everybody everywhere all at once, really.
Yeah.
Dune is an omniscient book? Interesting.
Yeah, since with Dune you're kind of hopping from different perspectives without, say, a chapter break or a perspective shift. For example, George R. R. Martin, he does chapter shifts where every chapter is entirely from one person's perspective, whereas somebody like Robert Jordan, he'll, towards the kind of middle of the book, he'll shift perspectives once to twice a chapter, depending. But with Dune, it's like you're kind of flitting around within a page sometimes.
Yeah, I wanted to shift perspectives to cover events of interest to the reader, things that are going to be important for the reader to see.
Yeah, and of course in real life, like in real life, you don't just have subjectivity for one person. Everyone has subjectivity, so it's a little. So even though it's convenient, it's a little unrealistic to have just one person's perspective and no one else's. Which is why it's good to, why there's something to be said for flitting about between perspectives.
Yeah,
I do it myself.
Yeah, for sure. I think I think the most common one is Abercrombie and Jordan and Sanderson. They seem to kind of, their particular brand of perspective shifting seems to be the most common, as opposed to, say, what Frank Herbert does. And even to a certain extent, I think Brian Jakes does it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, the perspective shifts in this chapter is basically going to be a one-off in the entire book. Like, this is pretty much the only time I'm going to be doing it, because the entire story, because the justification for the story being told is that Valerie is recounting it to Rosa. If we all remember the prologue at the beginning of the story.
That's right.
That's the narrative framing. So I am going to have to contrive a reason for Valerie to learn about what that interaction with Sunny, Sheila, and the merchant. So I am going to have to write in something about that indicates that Sheila told Valerie about it.
Mm.
So that is going to be a bit of a one-off. So
okay.
Any advice to make the transition seem better, or was it just fine?
If you want to differentiate it, what I would advise is,
well, I mean, I don't want it to be too heavily differentiated. I want the perspective shift to just sort of flow with the narrative.
Well, that it sure did. It was almost that's what makes it a bit jarring, because while it happened, you were thinking that this was still from Valerie's perspective, and then all of a sudden, wait, halfway through it, I realized, wait, this is a different perspective here. Interesting. So if that's what you're trying to do, you did succeed with that. Although I don't think that's proper
so it's too
in literature.
Subtle for you.
No, not for me. No. I don't. What I think Dunn is saying is, I don't think that's proper in literature to do that.
Well, kind of like what I got from it is kind of like, what I got is that there was no perspective shift. Like that's what I felt from it. That I didn't feel like you have kind of been doing like this whole thing kind of felt like it was an omniscient narrator the whole time. And my thought would be that something that might benefit you would be to kind of give a few more like interiority to that is unique to their individual characters. Like, I know you don't like fantasy, but Joe Abercrombie is a really good example of this, where like he admittedly does pretty low fantasy. Joe Abercrombie, he's my favorite author of all time. Basically, he will very much change how he writes a chapter based on the character that he is writing.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that in novels I've read. I like those. Those are fun.
Yeah, where an example is actually in Best Served Cold, which is one of my favorite revenge books. Just as much as it's pretty on par with Count of Monte Cristo, honestly, in terms of just how good it is. Where there's two characters. One is kind of an autistic guy who likes numbers, likes things to make sense, versus a very upscale poisoner type who's very full of himself, a bit of a narcissist. And the way that they're both written is very different. One uses more kind of flowery, fancy prose and that sort of thing, while the other one has a lot of interiority, whereas the other one has more blocky, simple stuff. So you don't have to go to that extreme, but I think that's something that would help kind of differentiate, is especially if it's audio, is if there's a little bit kind of some things to differentiate the characters, make it seem like they're not like the same
The same person the whole way through.
Yeah.
Okay. I see that. And I did also notice that some interiority was lacking in a chapter. We only get a little bit of some of Valerie's thoughts throughout all of that, but that's about it. Again, this is like the roughest of rough drafts. This is like this didn't even exist. Like that back end didn't even exist until today. Like that whole interaction between Valerie and the archaeologist, that was written like only 15 minutes before the stream.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thanks.
Indeed.
Who's playing music?
Also,
I'm sorry.
No, it's nice. It's not bad.
Her name is literally spelled like the word valor with a Y at the end.
Oh God, I didn't know. Yeah, I was like, I have a feeling this is spelled differently than I think, but I don't really care. I'm just gonna write it out like this. I'm just gonna do my best educated guess. But no, that's pretty cool. Valerie, I see.
Yes, kind of fits her character a bit. And no, Codex, there isn't a U in there.
Codex?
What?
Did he DM you? Where is he at?
No,
I don't see any comments from Codex.
Axela, I'm making a. So if he watches later,
I see.
Or any British from our server sees is like, no, there is no U in there.
Yes, there surely would better be.
Canadians do. Canadians do. I didn't know about you, Raptor or Ness.
It sucks then. If there's no U, it sucks.
There's no U, it sucks. Yeah.
American, man.
Not anymore.
Americans, why do you change your letters? Because we took you out of it. Yeah, I saw that joke years ago. It was a dad joke, but it was a good one.
They must all die.
Come on, man.
The worst is when they spell cataloging without the U. Then it looks like cataloging. That just makes me want to throw up. Pardon my language.
Totally fair. It's
unreasonable
offensive to the senses.
Okay, I have 9 pages. Not bad. This is
Okay.
not a long scene at all.
Okay, so Valerian, can I get an estimate on how long yours is? I'm probably going to skip mine today. Okay, since
no,
you're fine.
Well, he has to go.
Yeah, I do have to go at 4.
Well, I mean, how long is mine? It depends. I mean, because I'm reading bits of a chapter, so I'll be reading a section of a chapter. I don't think it shouldn't be too long.
Okay. You guys okay with taking 15 minutes each?
Yeah, I think I can do that. Time me.
Okay.
Give me a 5-minute warning, and I'll either stop or speed it up. Do whatever. Figure it out.
Do it in the private chat, though, right?
Well, no. Feel free to chime in like you've done with Wissia and others before, where you said 5-minute warning while we're presenting. I don't mind. That's fine.
Okay.
For me, do that for me. You know how long-winded I am, so I'm locking down on that today.
all right, enough waffling. Let's get to it.
Yeah.
Okay. 2-minute recap. Let me try to do this quickly. Yeah, we're back in space. Yay! Markin and the crew going to Pluto. Yay! So this one is actually the first new chapter I'm ever presenting in a while. Not ever. Why did I say ever? Basically, chapter 4 and 5, chapter 3 and 4, I represented. I felt that was a good starting point. So to give a quick recap, we did the initiation ceremony. Captain was giving the breakdown on what everyone's roles and positions are one last time before settling down to Pluto to investigate what the blackout is. The blackout is blocking all communications to and from the outer 3 worlds of the solar system, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and nobody knows what it is, so we're going in to find out and to reestablish, basically reclaim, exactly like the ship is called. The ship is the Reclamation B-19. And so that was chapter 3, and the last one I presented with you guys, I represented, was the interesting hallway scene with Markin and Luna. So basically, Markin separated from Tannic and Seda and everybody, and while he was in the hallway admiring just, the views of space, because he's not in space often, he ran into a little girl who was knocking on the glass, and then they get to know each other. She's Luna. She's about 4 or 5 years old, something around there. And then Markin figures out that she's like him, where during the wormhole sequence, there was only 13 people of the entire crew of 1,000, 14,000, roughly, I forgot the number I chose, that saw hallucinations. And so in that moment, they both see another one where they see a figure standing at the end of the hallway walking towards them. And the question that's on your minds, like you guys mentioned, which should be on your minds, is it real? Is the woman walking in the hallway real? Especially after the fact that while they were backing away because they were starting to get scared, Markin ran into a soldier. They both knocked each other off their feet. And when he turned back around and pointed and said, "Someone's right there," nobody was there, making him look crazy. And so these kind of youth-like, they're pretty much, immature soldiers started beating the living hell out of Markin. Basically, imagine the scene from Hacksaw Ridge where they beat the living hell out of Desmond Doss. Pretty much that. And then Brax came in, he's the colonel, and he saw, and he just watched it, and then he just let them continue. And after they were done, he basically told Markin, "I think the little girl's parents are that way. Saw a family looking for a child back yonder. Get out of here. You're not welcome here." This is basically what he said in a nutshell. And so after that, Markin, comforts her. She's crying, and then she comforts him. And then he takes her hand, and they start to walk back to the initiation area to find her parents. And as they do so, when Markin found Luna, she was knocking on the glass, looking for the hands in space that they saw when they went through the wormhole. While they're walking back, they both hear knocking behind them, and Markin makes the choice not to turn around. And he tells her to do the same. Don't look back. And that's how that chapter ends. Any questions before I begin?
All good. Sounds straightforward.
Cool. All right, I think that was quick. All right, done. Start the timer. You said 15, right? Let's do 15. Okay, might be a little bit sloppy in my presentation, so bear with me. We're doing chapter 5. I don't really have a good name for it yet. Probably going to be Lights. Jesus mighty, Markin, what happened to you? I winced as I stepped into the elevator. I dropped my bag on the floor and gritted my teeth as I waddled over to the seats. I slumped down hard into it, exhausted and beaten down. My entire body was aching. "Ask that Nazi Martian hero of yours, Lionel Brax," I said spitefully, holding up air quotes. Tannic raised his chin and simply mouthed a silent ah. "Jesus mighty," Tannic repeated, shaking his head as he walked over to the sink station. He turned on the faucet, then grabbed one of the towels from the shelf. He soaked it quickly in the hot water before handing it to me. I took the towel gratefully. "Marsborn?" It wasn't so much of a question, but rather a statement. We both knew. I mouthed a silent thank you as I covered my face with the soothing warmth of the towel. Within seconds, the white fabric turned red. "Animals," Tannic gritted his teeth as he shook his head. "What in the fresh hell of space and stars happened back there, Mark?" "There's this little girl," I began to explain. "Luna, her name was. In that same hallway where you and I separated, I found her standing there just alone." I winced as the heat of the towel met a cut on my nose. I sighed as I moved it to the back of my neck. Then Brax and a few of his soldiers came by, all hi-ho and full of themselves, and, well, I waved dramatically. Tannic scoffed as he shook his head. "A little girl? Soldiers? Brax?" He cursed a sentence in Takanith as he threw up his hands into the air. "I leave you alone in the hallway for 2 minutes! 2 minutes!" I laughed, also in... Sorry, I lost my place. I laughed, also in disbelief, as I continued to wipe my face and neck. I winced as my stomach immediately seared with internal pain. Hold on, this is a bad sentence. I winced as my stomach seared with internal pain, immediately regretting the laugh. I proceeded to cough instead. Eventually, the towel became completely entrenched in red, to which I threw it back into the sink like a dirty sock to a hamper. Tannic continued to stare at me, eyebrows closing together, eyes filled with worry. He walked over to the panel and flipped the lever, turning back to face me. The elevator gave us a soft musical ding as the metal outside slid into place, sealing the door and airlocking the chamber. Sealed, a soothing woman's voice said. Hate to say it, Markin, but we are very late. Tanik held his hand over the console as he looked at me. Moon is going to be pissed. Are you ready? Can you handle the drop? Can you handle the drop, brother? I nodded as I gripped the handles on the seat. Do it. We don't have the time. Dropping, the voice gently confirmed as Tanik pressed the panel. With a gentle thrust, we instantly plummeted. Within seconds, the reclamation B-19 was long gone above our heads, as the auroral lights below were rising quickly towards our feet. I gritted my teeth in anticipation for any more inertia or possible turbulence. The cuboid vessel rocked back and forth a few times from the sudden thrust into Pluto's gravity, and I winced as I felt the blood in my head shift and race. But, like ancient Earth elevators, one doesn't pay too much attention to the tugs of inertia as they thrust I'll put jolt there actually, as they jolt on initial lifts. We were sailing in smooth waters now as the elevator calibrated its landing trajectory and stabilized, making our fall smooth as butter. I relaxed my hands as I eventually let go of the handles. Thank the stars, I thought to myself. I needed a gentle ride, for once. Tanik whistled as he walked over to the seat next to me. He let out a dramatic sigh as he sat down and relaxed into place, shaking his head. What the hell does Seda see in you, Markin? Honestly. I ask myself that question every day. We both blurted out laughs before I had to stop myself due to the pain. Turning around to the wall of glass right behind me, I placed my hand on it as I looked outside and watched the view. As the innumerable stars glistened and Pluto's auroral lights danced right below us, I watched as we slowly descended into the planetoid's engineered atmosphere. To our left, two other elevators were falling steadily alongside us, one slightly behind. One of them most likely contained Luna and her family, I reasoned to myself. For a family who named their child the same name as Earth's moon, they sure were complete pricks, I thought to myself. They had a few nasty words to say once Luna and I finally found them. It turned out she had slipped away during the ceremony, and they had been frantically searching for her ever since. As the two of us walked and searched for her parents, during conversation when I asked why she wandered away, Luna told me she heard voices calling to her. I couldn't help but to keep replaying that strange encounter again and again in my head, all while we were my pronunciation's a bit off. All while we were falling feet first into paradise. I couldn't stop thinking about what we saw back there, and how Luna saw it too. A loud whistle interrupted my thoughts as I looked over at Tanik, admiring the view as well. He had both of his hands and forehead practically glued to the glass, like an excited child in an old American school bus. I smiled. We always dreamed of this moment, haven't we, Tan? Images of Seda flashed through my mind as I said it, and I'm pretty sure my heart skipped a beat. She looks so happy up there on that stage with you, you know that? Tanik turned to me and smiled. I was taken aback. It was like he was reading my mind. You two are adorable, Mark. I'm really happy for you, Moon Brother. Truly. He placed his hand on my shoulder before smirking a little bit. Although, you two are really cliché, I must say. Oh, shut up! I slapped away his hand as he chuckled. She's the only reason I'm here, you know? I said sentimentally as I looked back out at the lights below. Did you know Australia was how we first met? His eyes widened. Wait, really? He gave me a massive grin as he punched my shoulder. Shut up! No way! I'm serious, I chuckled as I winced slightly. Stop lying! You're only saying that because you're obsessed. No, listen. Tanik leaned closer as he stared at me intently. It was in the Astara Museum, in New Queens, I began. Remember when I was studying Johann Astara 4 years ago, right after we became friends? Oh yeah, he smiled wide as his eyes looked at the ceiling. That's right, it was a few months into your studies in New York. You told me one day you met a girl, told me you were all in love, eh? He said in a playful tone. I laughed as I nodded. April. It was April. I was visiting New York that day to visit the Astara Museum for my research, like I said. Another day at work, you know? He nodded. By the sun and stars, Tanik, I'll never forget that moment I first saw her. I had to pause to shake my head as my eyes grew big with wonder. I knew at the time the fastest way I could get off that god-forsaken rock above Earth, and get away from anything to do with that ridiculous dust war, was to study up and study hard. So I did. I spent 2 years there, in good old New Queens. Wild people, man. Wild people. I raised my hands up dramatically as I imitated a terrible old New Yorker accent. Tannic snorted next to me as he shook his head, smiling. It was nowhere near the work and effort you and Tavika put into becoming doctors and translators, obviously. I gestured towards him. But it was enough. It was enough for Moon to choose me. Fastest way to get on the reclamation, you know? Cap knew I was the most qualified for Pluto intelligence, even though she made it very obvious she didn't want me. But I played my cards right. I was the most knowledgeable, the most adaptive, the quickest on my feet thinker out of all the options. Try growing up in those fucking Darkslide slums like I did. Makes you sharp, I'll tell you that. Tannic nodded a few times. Hold up. Error. Spelling error. Tannic nodded a few times, understanding completely. He only visited my home once, and only once. Most of the Moonborn Darkside cities were complete jokes of living conditions. And the Dust War only made things worse. That's how I got Moon to choose me, despite her concerns about my connection to the war, or potential connection. Fuck those terrorists. I hate them too, I told her. She verified I had never stepped foot on Mars or ever participated in any of their uprisings. I was cleared. Tannic smiled. And now my brother from another worldly mother gets to go with me to the Oasis Riverwalk, he said giddily and loudly like a kid. Of course he was excited to see the Riverwalk. Who wasn't? After we get the power on, I smiled. After we get the power on, he repeated. Or it actually doesn't, there is no dialogue tag, but it's a different dialogue bar for listeners, so it's not Markin repeating himself. At the end of the day, I pointed at my bruised face, I did this all for Seda. This trip, this reclamation. I'm not doing this for me, Tan. I'm doing this for her. I looked back outside as I finished, letting the silence linger. The lights below turned red and gold for a brief moment before phasing into green and then purple. Immediately I thought of her. I know every word of Yahan's speeches to the letter, I continued. I know every street corner of downtown and midtown. I know every surrounding city, every wildlife exhibit, every store, every nightclub, every hotel. I learned and memorized it all. Makes sense, Tannic nodded. With the blackout, Captain can't trust any technologies or AIs, good, bad, or indifferent, because we still don't know what the hell wrecked most of the power or even what the blackout is. Exactly, I said. Or how it continues to keep blocking all the radio wave and light speed imaging messages, and only in the 3 outer worlds? The hell? Exactly, he repeated, nodding a few times. We both turned and looked outside at the view. Moon made it abundantly clear why she chose human and Exani intelligence personnel instead of drones, AI, or technology of any kind. Lilana Moon was a seasoned war general, and she helped end the Dust War with Brax. She needed something far more reliable and something adaptive. People. Exani and humans alike. Those who can think on their feet. We simply did not know what to expect from post-blackout Australia. There was no time to take chances. I'm going to take out that last sentence. That's not necessary. We simply did not know what to expect from post-blackout Australia. She's really paranoid, isn't she? I looked at him. It's just random power outages and some weird celestial event. The civvies are still living downtown where the backup generators still are, and it's not like the damn Dust War or Pertinin where my people were hit the hardest. It's just a reclamation. Well, you remember what she had to do to keep Decalibre safe, right? Remember? Tannic asked. She bombed the hell out of the Moonborn from orbit. Hey, easy, Tan, easy. I held up both hands, a bit nervous at the statement. I know that, man, I know. She's one hell of a warrior, I'll tell you that. I see why Grath chose her for Pluto and not Uranus or Neptune. Damn straight she is, he said with a sparkle in his eye. I stared at my friend for a moment with a smile. Come on, though, Tannic leaned over. Luna's not that bad, Markin. You got Neil's footprint up there. He gently punched my shoulder, barely even touching it so as not to hurt me. It's a systemic treasure right there. The first time mankind ever walked the stars. He raised both of his hands and waved them dramatically. That's one of the greatest historical landmarks in the entire system. Aren't you proud of that? Please. I rolled my... Gotcha. I'm probably not going to finish. Let me know when the timer runs out. I got like 5 pages left.
Let's start with more speaking.
Sorry, I'm trying to find my place. Please. I rolled my eyes so hard they almost popped out. That damn footprint has so much security and armed personnel it might as well be Area fucking 51. Try taking a date to that stupid place. Security is practically up your ass. Good luck seeing that girl again. To that, Tannic laughed loudly. I mean, he said after a few moments of calming down, after all the vandalism attempts and those protesters and rioters or whatever, it makes perfect sense. We almost lost Neil's footprint we almost lost Neil's print to nut jobs too many times, man. Way too many times. It's a miracle it's still even there. I had to nod several times to that. I couldn't have said it better. No, Tan, no. I shook my head. I'm sick of Luna. I'm sick of the moon. When we're done here, when we bring the power back and stop this celestial whatever this is, I looked right into his eyes. I want to move here with Seda, and I want you and Tav to join us. He jolted his head back in surprise. You want to live on Pluto? I nodded. Think about it. No more dust war. No more Martian magistrate. No more slums. No more idiocy. No more UNE or Earthborn nonsense. Only Taken and King Auric nearby. And Johanna Starr's masterpiece. I motioned outside to emphasize. Trees, lakes, animals. No more craters. No more depressing concrete. No more bullshit. No more random asteroids. She deserves this, man. Tannic laughed. You sly, clever dog. I chuckled. Love you too, Tan. But my point still stands, though, Mr. Moonblood, he said playfully, smirking. Neil's footprint is special. Period. I don't care how much you hate your home. That's like Da Vinci's Mona Lisa. Priceless. I smiled. You know what's funny about that, Tan? I looked over at him as he raised an eyebrow. That's not the first time in history that something like that happened, either. I looked back outside and tapped my fingers on the glass. Getting beaten up senseless for a crime you didn't do, protesters or anti-war activists destroying statues that had nothing to do with their causes, the burning of books or destruction of museum properties over the millennia. You know, things like that used to happen all the time back in ancient Earth. As far back as I could find, long before we finally colonized Mars, the more I researched, the more I found. I couldn't believe what I was reading. We quite literally never changed. Humans, he simply said, looking outside and shrugging his shoulders, holding up both hands. What can I say? What can we say? I nodded in agreement. Nothing new under the sun. Confucius? No. Bible. Solomon. Ah, he realized. That's right. So much history, so many people. I forget the details. My head is packed with fluent Takanith and so many Exani culture, man. He tapped on his temple. Good grief, Mark. Some of their legends and myths? Jesus mighty. No judgment, I said. I forget the details of all of our histories, too. Shoot, man, you need to be able to memorize all of the Exani knowledge you know. You're the chief translator, after all. Don't let Moon down, eh? She might kill you. He growled a little bit. Say that again. Jesus Christ, Tannic. We both laughed loudly. After a few moments of silence, I placed my hands on my knees as I sat up and made my way over to the sink. I turned on the faucet and ran another towel under the hot water. I placed it on my face again as I winced, then sighed with satisfaction as the warm towel soothed my bruises and slowly faded white to a lighter shade of red, unlike the last one. I wrapped it around my neck and reached down and cupped my hands, and I began to drink some of the water. Filtration systems were perfect these days, and the water was incredibly nutritious. I immediately felt a lot better. Tannic watched me for a few moments and then looked back outside. We were getting very close to the auroral lights now, and they looked a lot like clouds. Gotcha.
Time's up. Wrap it up.
Yep, I'll just leave it there. I still have 4 pages.
Sounds good. Yeah. Good character work. I like the interactions of the characters. It was very well done.
Thank you. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Well, I was rushing through the recap to get straight into it, but I was going to say it at the beginning that I'm a little bit unconfident with the word choices and grammar, but I'm very confident in the character work. I think it's very good here.
That's fine.
Hey, James.
Yeah, the dialogue is really good.
Oh, what's up, Dodex? What are you doing over here?
Dang, I didn't get to the good part either.
You missed all of my offensive British and Australian accents.
Yeah, he did.
You would have been livid, Codex.
He did on purpose.
Since I had to cut off, unfortunately, before I got to the entire point of this chapter, what happens next is that Markin makes the decision. He says, "You know what? Now's the time," and he shows Tannic a wedding ring, and Tannic freaks out and just gets overly excited. He just starts cussing and yelling and basically bear hugging the crap out of Markin,
making a lot of noise.
Yeah, he goes crazy, and that's the moment when he realizes that he's going to propose to Seda here, and Tannic's going to be his best man. So yeah, that's pretty much how the chapter ends, actually. Cool. And then I have a few descriptions of what Australia looks like as they finally go through the Aurora Lights.
Nice.
I'll get that next time.
Yeah, there was
very nice. Oh,
there was.
Yeah, I wanted to say that because it was, if I were to not say anything and then leave all the context that we just read and then go straight into that next time, it would be really jarring. So I figured I'd just say it really quick.
Spoiler, but
yeah.
But I was just going to mention one thing. There's probably a few others. As he stared at me intently, you could just say staring at me intently and shorten it a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. Let me go find that.
It's no big deal.
Honestly, I was more jarred that Markin, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I was more jarred that he referenced the Nazis
than
anything else. I'm like, oh, sorry, how far into the future is this taking place again?
Well, dude, all of us still reference Rome and Greece. They're going to be referencing the Nazis for all of time. Let's be real here.
How many of us reference the ancient Egyptians?
All the time. I do. Sometimes it depends on the conversation.
Yeah, people know about the ancient. And Nazi is like one of those things which has become a meme. It's going to be, as long as our civilization exists, Nazi is going to be like...
Well, let's be real here. The Nazi regime was extremely significant. That's going to be remembered for all of history.
Yeah,
it's right up there with stuff like the Exodus. Like even now we still talk about the Exodus, whether you believe it happened or not. It's referenced and it's common, commonly, and that's ancient. That's really ancient. So, yeah.
But here's the problem: as far as Japan, China, and most of East Asia is concerned, the Holocaust never happened. The Nazis never happened. They never existed, as far as they're concerned. They're a footnote in their history.
You can assume by
they're huge in our history because we are in one of the countries that fought the Nazis. So it was a huge deal to us. So I get what you're trying to say, but the fact of the matter is that a lot of the world right now barely even talks about the Nazis.
I know,
even though
but you can tell that Markin
horrific and evil.
Markin and Tannic come from a first world, civilization. You can tell that they come from that how they talk. Pretty much the same as ours today.
So basically, just a stasis of the United States in Western civilization surviving.
I mean, you heard them referencing it a few times. They said old America, so there's a different America currently, and obviously New York is still around. Markin went there,
and it's still relevant about 3,000 years into the future.
Yep. Yeah. What do you guys think? This chapter was loaded with a lot of the you can see in my story. I do a lot of one of the themes is that humanity doesn't really ever change. We stay the same time throughout time, so that's one of the themes. I don't know if you guys caught that, as well as referencing current events like ancient history, because one of the things that the story does.
Not notice it. Yeah, like you literally have characters point it out and spell it out to the audience that the theme of the story is people never really change.
Mm-hmm. So it's pretty significant.
We did understand the dialogue, yes. When the chap said people never change, we understood that it meant that people never change.
And when you started talking about things like book burnings and tearing down statues and friggin' defacing art, that is like impossibly on the nose. It's like if you are present in a Western civilization and you're aware of the zeitgeist and particularly all the political crap going on, you will not be able to hear that and not think of it.
That's the intention. It is a jab. It is a jab. Like, I will look at those people and say, you are a joke.
I'm going to advise you go against it. I would advise you avoid doing jabs.
I'll let the editor and publishers decide what they want to do with that. But no, I'm good with it.
Okay, but I'm just going to tell you. I'm just going to give you the similar advice that Sparring gave me a long time ago. This is filter. You're going to be filtering your audience by quite a bit. If you make repeated jabs towards one side, you will be filtering your audience.
I'm not making jabs at any side. I'm criticizing what humans do in history. Burning of the Library of Alexandria, desecration of history. It's not just current. This has happened throughout all of history. That's the entire point.
I would agree with that. It was a central thing of pretty much every communist regime, tyrannical.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not bashing today's none of this story is allegorical to today. It's this entire story. The point of it, it's one of the points. It actually taps into deeper, more cosmic horror aspects later on, and I'm already hinting at some of those currently. But one of the themes for humanity, at least, is that we remain the same. We don't really change much, and it's also a fun food for thought. What if we did colonize the planets? How would people treat Neil Armstrong's footprint? Well, you'd build a museum around it. You'd venerate it similarly to, current Jerusalem, for example. That's venerated, and certain places like, the Temple Mount, et cetera, et cetera. And then in the same way that people try to destroy things like statues or libraries, things like that, they sometimes in the heat of conflicts in the future between different factions of whatever and whoever, they tried to go in and destroy Neil Armstrong's footprint. And that's not good. That's really not good. That's like trying to destroy the Mona Lisa or the Eiffel Tower. No.
Well, hey, says Chip, at least he's not like noble and filtering out the entire audience.
How long have you been here?
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Hi, How Trip, long have you been here? Hello, welcome.
It's been a while.
She must have just come in now.
We're doing well over there? Everything's all right? Doing good?
And she came in just in time to listen to my part of my chapter.
All right.
Well, yeah. Before we go to the next person, any other comments on everything that I presented there?
Yeah.
Let's see. Character work is fine. World building is okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. I take umbrage with you basically having them still referencing the Nazis like 3,000 years into the future. But I mean, hey, that you do you, buddy.
I don't agree with that criticism. I think it's fine.
I honestly think it's fine, considering that we're still talking about people like Alexander the Great.
Exactly. Thank you. That's exactly the point.
Alexander the Great. That's.
We still reference Ivan the Terrible.
It's all about. It's all. The point I was trying to make was that it's all a matter of perspective, because our perspective from Western civilization, we see ourselves as a continuation going all the way back from the ancient Greeks.
Mm-hmm.
So
we still talk about the Great Flood. Like, we still talk about the Epic of Gilgamesh, and we still talk about Hammurabi's code.
And Pharaoh. Pharaoh's army.
We still reference Odysseus and stories like that.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is that in places like Africa, South America, like most of Asia, not Australia, because Australia is technically a Western country.
Well, so South America.
Huh? No,
South the point I'm trying to make is that Portuguese.
Oh yeah. The point I'm trying to make over here is that to a lot of these other places in the world, things that seem obvious to us to be referenced are not even a blip on the radar to them.
Why does that matter?
He was watching. They were watching Hogan's.
It doesn't matter in this context. Markin and Tannic are both first worlders and pretty privileged people for the most part.
Hogan's Heroes is considered a classic in their culture.
Yeah, I mean, but the point I'm trying to make over here is that time erodes all things, including the memories of people and civilizations, no matter how grand or important you think they are in the present.
Quite the contrary, actually.
I would actually firmly disagree.
It's the polar opposite.
It depends. Some things yes, some things no.
If something very significant happens in present for whoever the present is during that era, that gets kept in the future.
I would agree. And considering if like by this point, like if space travel has happened, pretty much all of human culture is kind of homogenized to a certain extent, especially if you have like a historical homogenized education system. There's going to be significant points in history. They're going to talk about all of human history. Like if you look, even looking at Starship Troopers, which is way in the future.
No, she's not wrong. She's not wrong.
Speaking of which, I love that.
That's funny.
Speaking of which, I don't recall any anatomical references in this episode. So I think it's a 0 out of 10 because of no hot female anatomy.
Yep. I don't know, Trip, if you got the part but I had to cut off the chapter. Basically, it goes into Markin reveals that he has a wedding ring, and Tannic freaks out, realizing he's going to be his best man, and gets really excited. And then the rest of the chapter is them just enjoying the rest of the descent as they see an ocean of trees below them. It's pretty awesome. Which is why I have this as my profile picture. Thought it was fitting.
Yeah. That was pretty cool.
I like plants.
But yeah, I honestly
agreed, Codex.
Honestly, I'm like, I think that the Nazi Germany is one of those crux points of history that would be taught in a similar vein to the murder of Julius Caesar, the reign of Augustus Caesar,
the Sphinx, the pyramids, Gilgamesh.
I mean,
Christopher Columbus,
Cyrus,
the finding of American. Yeah, Alexander the Great conquering pretty much the whole of the known world. Even we remember even small stuff like Vlad the Impaler. A lot of it due to Bram Stoker's Dracula, even though it's kind of apocryphal that that's attributed to him. But
I guarantee you in the future and far future
that the details of it gets boiled down and it gets skimmed over. Like, for example, the assassination of Julius Caesar. Do you want to guess when I learned about that? Like the actual details of it?
Yesterday?
College.
Really?
Honestly, same here. I didn't learn about that growing up.
We barely talked about the Roman Empire in primary school or primary education. It took until college for me to actually get an idea. Yep.
I mean, for example, I guarantee you in the far future.
Another point to expand on it is that 3,000 years.
One at a time, please, boys. One at a time, please, boys. Exuela, then Wes.
Okay.
Oh, I'll be quick. I guarantee you, I've thought about this. In the far future, when people remember the United States of America, I don't know how much longer the country is going to last, like in the world timeline of history, but the two presidents that are going to always be remembered, probably for the rest of time, known time, is Abraham Lincoln and George Washington. Those two are going to be remembered. They are extremely significant. So yeah, stuff like that, and then you see something like the Nazi Germany regime and how that created the biggest war in human history. Yeah, of course that's going to be remembered. World War II is that's going to be remembered for all of time. World War II and everything that led up to it.
Well, yes, but I want to also add something. Axela, you have 3,000 years. You have 3,000 years of history that extends past the present moment. I am very, very sure that they are going to have their own version of the Nazi regime that's going to be 1,000 times worse than anything we've seen within our lifetimes or will ever see. Like,
yeah, they referenced that a few times.
That's the point. That's the point I'm trying to make over here. Is that the events that happened up until now will be dwarfed within 3,000 years of time and with interstellar travel.
Now, keep in mind, in this case specifically, Markin is obsessed with Earth, in particular because he's in love with Seda, and she's from Earth, so that's the reason. That was already established. I've already established that a few times in previous chapters.
I think that it's fine if two characters are just kind of geeky about history. I think if a lot of people are like that, maybe it would kind of depend on what the education system is.
And if all the references are to 20th century and 21st century Earth, and there's no references to anything else.
No, there's more. There's more than there's.
Then it would be.
There's references to in the story. They'll reference stuff in their history that's our future, like Wissia said, and then there will be moments that they'll reference stuff that's really ancient, like I don't know, pyramids, dinosaurs, etc. Stuff like that. It's all throughout the story. Markin is a huge nerd, and one of my inspirations for how I write him is how Chidi is written in The Good Place. Very nerdy. Not that nerdy, but very similar.
That would actually. That would.
Yeah, that would.
I just realized, Trip, you have your name on the profile picture too. That's pretty cool.
Oh, it is.
Oh, nice. That's sick.
Cybernetic and like old cyberpunk with all these little bits. That's just really neat.
Yeah, I have a few references, I think, previously and coming up that are twisted or wrong on purpose because they misquote or misremember the history. I mean, for example, we just heard that, he said nothing new under the sun, and Tannic was like, Confucius? He said, no, Solomon, Bible. And he went, oh, that's right. Oh, I forgot. That, for example, is one of them.
I mean, to be fair, that's something somebody would mix up in real life today.
Yeah. I mean, how many people know that comes from Ecclesiastes?
Yeah, I don't know that because, that requires I be part from a particular cultural zeitgeist, which I have had virtually no exposure to. And
keep in mind, Tannic is educated. He's 100% fluent in the alien language. So, he's educated. So with that context, in this point, this far in the future, yeah, he might get a few details slightly off in old history from their perspective. I love that we're talking about this again. This is what happens when I write this into my stories.
Yeah.
I mean, this is supposed to be a thought-provoking story, especially when I tap into the cosmic horror. This all interconnects, by the way. I have this big, kind of like spider's web plan laid out.
Well, we're talking about the logistics of whether or not something would even be referenced in your story at this point.
Yeah. And that's fair. That's a very fair critique.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, it will be remembered. Believe that.
You'll be remembered.
If we still talk about the Exodus, which is very similar, yeah, we're going to talk about that too in
she
future
says
history.
Correctly though, so maybe what she means is it'll be remembered.
Oh, correct. Oh, I missed. Yeah. Keyword correctly. Yeah, it's gonna be loose as time goes on. Every few thousands of years, it's gonna get worse and worse. Where unless you read it directly and actually educate yourself, people are gonna be misquoting it and miscommunicating
people
it.
Are certainly going to spend less time talking about it in the far future.
Yeah, that's
worst
natural.
Case scenario, the Holocaust deniers win out. That would be quite.
Oh no!
No! Yeah, no.
Don't let him win. Like Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad. He can't keep getting away with it. He can't keep getting away with it.
Jiminy Victor's rewrite. Yeah, that's actually a good point where history is often rewritten by the victors.
Indeed, it is.
There's also even the thing of even modern day history, and admittedly, this is internet culture, not world culture. Like Gamergate, there's the two camps of what Gamergate is.
Yeah,
and that's just going to be twisted. Yeah.
There's what the Gamergaters themselves had to say about it, and then there are the people who are on the receiving end and what they had to say about it, and what either side has to say about it is very different.
And nobody can really agree.
Unfortunately.
How did I do with the presentation? I think I killed it. I noticed that about 2 sentences in, I was like, "Whoa, I'm doing a good job here. Okay, let's keep this going." Thing is that it was a bit too slow for the 15 minutes, unfortunately. But I had to speak in that pace in order to sell the characters and sell the scene. I need to figure out a good voice for Tannic. I can't come up with anything. I don't know what to do. He is a black guy, so I'm thinking, but how do I don't know. I don't know a voice to differentiate the two.
I would think about more whether or not the voice is deep or light, or if he's boisterous or if he's not. Yeah, like the levels of confidence and cadence and things of that nature. The last thing that should be coming to mind is race. You can give him an accent, but
it's just I don't know how to. It reads well in my head when I write it, but when I speak it, how my voice sounds, I just don't know what type of voice to use for that character. Meanwhile, for Brax, I gentleman, it's pretty easy. And then for Moon, very professional and very, Captain Moon is literally Dedra, so it's not hard.
Just imitate her.
Yeah. Trip. I love that. To answer that question, yes and no. It varies.
It does vary. It very much
There's this YouTube video, I think it was Jubilee who did it, where they had a bunch of white and black folks blindfolded on stage, and they had them try to guess each other's races. There was one guy that made it through the entire time that nobody could guess which he was, white or black. It was pretty cool. It was a fun video. It kind of showed you the stereotypes that people have, or like the biases people have in their heads.
It's kind of stupid and nonsensical, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a very enlightening watch and very fun, and it made you realize, no human is a hive mind. Like no person in a quote unquote race or ethnicity. I say race because there's only the human race, but no ethnicity is a hive mind. Everybody varies. We're all
monolith.
Yeah, and that's what's beautiful about humanity. None of us are the same. We're all different. That's also a theme in the story for later on.
Quite so.
No human is a hive mind.
But probably I should be doing my writing now. My reading now, so that what's his name can be off and.
Yes.
What's his name?
we have been rambling for way too long.
Yep. Thank you guys for your feedback. Great stuff.
Not in the least. Okay, so when I had left off, Margaret and her father were in the capital of the province of Ichalamu, which is where our castle is located. They were about to enter the palace of the governor. So, the governor's palace was 6 stories of limestone in the square Neo-Sandoranian style copied from Chugga. It had bas-reliefs of the putative glorious deeds of Ekwekwe IV's father, Ekwekwe III, and was surmounted by a very idealized, to put it mildly, statue of the Emperor Ekwekwe IV, whose glorious deeds were still in the process of being carved, and were, if possible, even more imaginary than those of his father.
Wait, hold on, Balerian. I zoned out for a second. My apologies. Are you doing the recap right now, or are you reading the text?
I'm reading the text.
Gotcha. Okay.
Recap. The recap was that they are in the capital of Ichalamu, which is called Tharmalon, and they're entering the gubernatorial palace, and they're on their way to the actual capital of the entire empire, so that Margaret and Barama can be introduced quote unquote to the emperor. So,
sounds good.
To continue, to Margaret, the edifice seemed cold, alien, and forbidding. I wish I were home. This feeling only grew as she followed her father into Barunu's, that's the governor, Barunu's audience hall, a vast space where goat-shapen candles illuminated tapestries of Sandranian legend. What about Ihalamu? She wondered. We're in Ihalamu, not Sandaran. But it turned out that there were, in fact, stories from Kalaman history in the dark corners. The message was clear. At the end of the hall between two silver palms, Margaret espied a golden chair with goat horns, whereon the governor sat in his red, blue, and white, I think that should be yellow, right? Well, anyway, and yellow robes. I'll just keep it as is. His silver coronet, palm leaves surrounded by goat horns, might possibly have been more impressive if it weren't constantly threatening to fall off along with his toupee. Something in the governor's eyes made Margaret draw back behind her father. He, for his part, gave no sign of his anxiety. Many years had passed since Pylamar had met the governor, but the memory was still unpleasant. He made as if to prostrate himself, but Bruno insisted that he rise. The count obeyed. Exquisite manners, as always, he thought. Yet Pylamar knew that the governor eyed his castle and lands with a greedy eye, and therefore would not be averse to ruining him by inducing him to say something disloyal. I trust him not, and I cannot forgive him for bringing that letter, even if he had little choice in the matter. Indeed, Bruno did keep saying suggestive things like, I know how much Great One loves the court, to which the count replied, I love it as Nyaja, Ishtaka, and Angara will that I do. Bruno inclined his head with a knowing smile. As for Margaret, Bruno welcomed her cordially, possibly too cordially. His smile might have been intended to be charming, but it made Margaret nervous. Your beauty shines in my palace like a blooming acacia upon the barren plain. Was that common politeness, she wondered, or what? Great one graces me with great grace. Bruno bowed exquisitely. We are not destined for the court, my lady, who adorns these walls beautifully. No, I'm sorry. I flubbed that sentence. We are not destined for the court. My lady would adorn these walls beautifully. At this moment, his toupee began to slide off again. Margaret curtsied. I don't know which is worse, being reminded of the court or being flirted with by a man thrice my age. Luckily, at this moment, the banquet was served, giving her a brief respite before Bruno recommenced his barrage. Before she could respond, however, Pylamar came to his daughter's rescue and asked Bruno to relate his accomplishments as governor, which Bruno proceeded to do in probably only partly mendacious detail. He still kept sneaking sidelong glances at Margaret, but at least she wasn't expected to say anything. It's got kind of dark. It wasn't just common politeness, Margaret realized. If it were, he'd have put father in the seat of honor where he belongs. But why does he keep looking at me like that? I wish we were home. Magnanimous one has graced us munificently, said Pylamar after the 9th course. This servant dares ask a boon. Bruno adjusted his toupee. Speak! Margaret waited. Don't show fear. Don't show fear. If it should please, Great One, to request that Margaret be excused from the Barusa, this servant's gratitude would blossom, said the Count, prostrating himself. Rise, said Bruno. I will consider. I will consider your request. I may have certain expectations for a return favor. We can discuss that in the event. While Pyamar bowed, his face a mask. Magnanimous one graces us abundantly. It grieves me that we must return to our lodgings and prepare for nocturnal repose. I hope this pleasure will be repeated, said Barunu. I shall see you to the door. And he did, while her father walked between him and a squirming Margaret, studiously ignoring the governor's broad hints that he wanted to walk next to her. As soon as she arrived in her quarters in her father's townhouse, Margaret wrote Adri, that's her sister, and her mother a blistering letter about the visit. Dear Mother and Adri, we're in Tharmalon and it's really big, even bigger than Anathos. Father says it's not that big and that cities in Sandron are much bigger, but it looks big to me. I was hoping for a look at the palm trees, but that creepy governor put a I need to make my voice higher. Put a wall around them. The governor is a complete slime and lickspittle. He's slavish towards the emperor and the court, and obnoxious to everyone else. He looks at me funny, too. I think he wants to marry me, which is gross, but maybe not as gross as the Barusa. I'm too young for all this. They claim that the imperial family is related to Bran, who converted us. I don't believe that rubbish. The only reason this family became emperors is that they were lickspittles for the Chuggins, and then they try to act like Chuggins themselves. They make us all worship them if they durst. Exalted this and exalted that. The governor is so servile, he probably wants to be the emperor's privy. But he watches peasants and beggars get punished. The punishments are really cruel, too. I saw a poor person get flogged for stealing some millet. Pardon me a second, I need some water. The governor doesn't like father.
You're doing great, Balerian. You don't need to strain your voice. We can tell who's who. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. The governor doesn't like father and is waiting for an opportunity to get rid of him, but pretends to be his friend because he wants to marry me and because Federanians are cowardly snakes. Well, except Cousin Barama. They're cruel and hateful too, and they don't know the Warhamite or don't care because it says in the Book of Holy Truth, give food to the poor, and the Barusa isn't in it. I always realized that stuff about how wonderful the Emperor is was a lot of nonsense. Now I'm sure of it. They're just like Sauron's evil uncles, and we know what happened to them. Love to Morishu, Morishuru, and Starlight, and to the river Dathlon. Another drink of water. Margaret innocently handed the letter to her father, as she had done all the others. He had sent her previous letters on with only mild edits, but when he saw this letter, he summoned Margaret to his quarters forthwith. We can't send this letter. You'll have to leave out all the bits that are less than enthusiastic about the Emperor or the governors. Why? But Margaret knew why. He's going to tell me to be wise again. Do you remember what happened to the servant girl in the last puppet play you saw? Asked Pylamar significantly. Oh. He means that maidservant who wrote sarcastic things to her employer in her letters. She realized. But they shouldn't have punished her. Her father sighed and shook his head helplessly. Do you think that because you ought not to be punished, therefore you won't? Have you really learnt so little? No, father. I'll be careful. Remember what it says in the Book of Justice. Many unjust judgments shall be rendered in this life, but in heaven, Ikri judges all things justly. Bahumya Drinin Ramam Zindai Vinya Ikrian Maki Ngara Yinram Humya. I will remember. Do so. If you make this mistake again, I shall have to forbid you to write any more letters. You are not in the nursery now. Soon you will be at court, where a false move can mean death and ruin. You must rewrite this letter if you want to send it, and show it to me first. Margaret bowed her head, and the Count dismissed her. Upon returning to her quarters, she rewrote the letter, deleting her more scorching comments or replacing them with her best attempt at panegyric. The 4 or 5 days spent in Tharmalon might have been enjoyable if they hadn't spent most of it with the governor. But departure was hardly a relief. Every step of their journey brought them closer to Exalted, the thought of whom filled Margaret with terror. And they had to leave their beloved barge in Tharmalon harbor at the mouth of the Dathlon, as it was not made for the sea. Pardon me. She had never seen the sea before and couldn't help being impressed. Look at the tidal pools, she cried, waving at the sea anemones and starfish and mollusks. Her father smiled but made a gesture for quiet. She bowed her head and went on observing. It's loud and smelly here, she thought. She stared at a bizarre bird called a jame, heavily built with broad splayed feet and some kind of serration, almost like teeth on its bill. It stank and squonked obnoxiously, and she hastened after her father towards a great sea-going vessel, subtly named the Glorious Emperor. I've never seen such a large ship, said Margaret. But what is that? That is the forecastle. I believe it is meant to be a bust of Exalted Equeque IV. He scratched his bald spot thoughtfully. It is very august, as you can see. And pardon me a second, I need to put a quotation mark in there. There. It is very august, as you can see. Is he joking? It was sometimes hard to tell. He led the way aboard ship, Margaret trailing diffidently behind. She had found riverine travel hard enough, and the waves crashing against the ship made her woozy. The Glorious Emperor hugged the coast until it reached Peje City in the east, where they were to meet Garawada and Barama. Margaret's first sea voyage was relatively short, only lasting about 3 days, and the ship never strayed far from the southern shore of Oro. Nonetheless, she was duly impressed, writing in her next letter. Wow, it's 6:30. After 6:30. Have you ever seen the sea? Well, Mother must have seen it when she moved to Ichalamu. That journey must have been hard, Mother, to go so far from home. Not to mention the boat sickness. It's a little better now. I agree the sea is like nothing you've ever seen. It's not like a river or stream, not even like a lake. It's vast. They say there are sea serpents. I never saw one. I wonder why God made the river. I wonder why God became the river Ungara instead of the sea. Maybe it's because the river feeds us and nourishes the plants and other living things. We're in Peje now. It's like a foreign country. It's flat, and the Kanwaris are taller and run. And they also have antelopes and what they call tiger bats. They run after rodents and eat them. So there's a kind of a tree, though, that I like. Dog trees with triple leaves. Father says they're called Ngoro. The houses are square here with round roofs. Their balcony is rectangular, not curved like ours. Here all the nobility speaks Sandaranian, and the common people speak the trade jargon. If something's too expensive, you say, Nina dapa ika bala. Must go now.
5-minute warning.
We're going to meet Barama and Uncle Barama, Uncle Garawada. I know you wish you could be here to meet him as well, Adri, but there's no place like home, as a famous princess once said. I wish we could go back now. Love, etc. She said nothing of her growing anxiety. What was there to say, even had it been safe to say it? And that's a good place to stop. We'll see you next time.
Indeed. I like the politics. It's interesting.
Indeed.
The only
Certainly an excellent presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The only comment I had was would blossom would be effusive. It's kind of interesting, but I guess that might be how they talk. So
I quite actually liked that little bit of it there because it really goes to show that this guy's really trying to impress.
Yeah.
The line subtly named the Exalted Emperor, it says a lot, and that like the audacity in that statement was pretty funny to me.
Yeah.
I mean, this character seems to really have quite the opinion of the Emperor, and it is not positive, and I quite find it humorous.
You know,
Indeed.
Actually, no. She loves him. She wants to have his babies, and
yeah, no, bro. We heard you. We heard the presentation, Valerian.
I changed it.
I do have to say, I agree with Dunn. That's a really good way of articulating it. I would have said something along the lines of, I like the conflicting ideas here, but the politics. I like the politics here. Especially there's that one line, something along the lines of, she thought about Exalted, and just the thought gave her chills. It was something like that. I'm badly paraphrasing.
Yeah, because well,
or like terror through the person's bones when they thought about Exalted.
Well, she's like she's 12 years old, and she's learned a couple of. She knows enough about the Barusa to know that she doesn't want to be going there at the age of 12.
Yeah. And one thing I did want to say, I probably said this before, but I don't remember. One thing I do like about your story that you're doing with your Emperor is you give him the title Exalted, which is commonly stated by people. It's unique because we have stories like Dune, Star Wars, and Warhammer that all have emperors, and they're usually referred to as the Emperor, or maybe Emperor blank 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 blank. In your case, Exalted, just Exalted, and it makes it unique, and I dig that. I like that unique take on it, and it works too in the context of the universe.
Thank you.
It's really does go to show just how full of himself this particular emperor is.
Yeah, I still remember the previous one. That was one of the funniest Peter Pan syndrome villains I've ever seen. He nailed that. The one that the one who was throwing his hands and acting like a toddler. What? I believe
for them to literally.
Was that the Emperor again? Let's see.
I believe it was an Emperor.
Can't you tell by his tone? He talks normally when recapping, but has a chewed when reading. I do kind of get snarky.
Just send soldiers in to rape and murder them already. Come on! I remember that. Yeah. It was really funny.
Yeah. That's the same guy.
It shows the sheer amount of privilege and like extreme spoiling. And that was a really good take on Peter Pan syndrome, which is a real thing. It's when you never grow up. It's this like psychological stunt that happens in the brain. And I caught that. I went, oh, I don't know if Valerian knows what that's called, but he's nailing it. He's nailing what Peter Pan syndrome is like in a villain context. Yeah.
We named Valerian always wanted to be a valley girl. Oh god, kill it, Dad.
Yeah. that was funny.
You do?
Like, of course, dude. Duh. Don't you want to be a valley girl? That's like the way to go. Oh my god.
Well, I have read before, because when I was reading, like, what was it? Oh, it was the one with the rabbits, for example. The one with the rabbits. I was reading that.
Oh god. Oh god.
Warship down.
No, you're giving me PTSD of listening to that. Oh my god.
Honestly, the movie is fairly scary.
It's odd. I remember two things about the film. I remember this lovely sequence at the beginning where the sun is shining and over the meadow, and the robots are hopping about, and they're telling the story about the myth of the creation of the first rabbit. I remember that part, and I remember the pit where they're like these dark, scary rabbits. Like, did they have red eyes, or did I make that up? Like attacking.
You know what? I think I'm getting the wrong one in my head. I think it was one where it was a story that you told, but with two characters, and they were speaking in Valley Girl. No, it wasn't Valley Girl. It was like dude, bro, like stoner talk. And man, that was a jarring listen for that presentation. That really was.
It was a satire that he was writing.
I remember that.
Like, dude, like you so don't get it. You so don't get hermeneutics, dude. Like, totally don't get it.
And I very much appreciate the satire. The world
a nice welcome change.
The world needs to actually know what satire is and needs more of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, I gotta get going, guys.
Understand.
So we'll probably have to head out. Thank you guys for coming.
I'll finish the rest of mine next week. See you guys then.
Thank you, my good people.
See ya.